everybody, it's Amanda.
You know, Rick.
It's Rick. It's time for our evening Bible study.
Yes.
Hey.
It's Friday.
What?
No, it's not. What is it? It's Tuesday.
Have you lost that much track of what day it is?
It's Tuesday. Is it Tuesday?
It's
Tuesday.
It's just a shame when it's that bad. You don't even know what day it is.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
there we are. There we are.
All right. I'm going to share the links. We'll get started in just a second.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if any of you have looked, but we finally had professional logos and things done. And yeah, we are. I'm sure Rick did that on purpose. Our matching. But we have new cover photos on our Facebook page. We have new logos on the channel and all of that. So take a look at them. Take a look at them. I actually, the gentleman who did them went to college with Ricky and Marquise. And, they have degrees in graphic design. And where Ricky is now working in a camp and Marquise is still getting additional art degrees, this gentleman actually has a graphic design business. And he is excellent. He is excellent. So I had him do it for me. And I really loved what he did. So just wanted to say I'm excited about the new pictures. What was I doing? Sharing links. I should probably do that.
On this Friday evening.
Oh, goodness.
Hope everyone is doing great. We are starting a new book tonight. 2 Samuel. Where is that located? It's right after 1.
I knew you were going to say that.
Right after 1. I love it when it lines up like that. It's easy to find. Mm-hmm.
I honestly think out of all the pictures we had done, the Beals Bible Study Facebook page has the best cover photo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's my favorite. My absolute favorite one.
I like that they all match.
Yeah.
I'm big on everything going together. It's part of that obsessive thing.
Mm-hmm.
When everything looks like it's different and it's mismatched, I get the eye twitch. The eyes start to twitch. I start to shake. I don't approve. I don't like it. But I like it when everything matched and it just seems like it was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything had a reason and a purpose. I like that.
Oh, yeah. Jess starting out with a good point. She said, Samuel is not in book 2, but his legacy is on. Exactly. This really was one whole story. But it was divided into 2 scrolls and therefore 2 books in our Bible. So it's all about what started with Samuel and how he has impacted the beginnings of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So very interesting. I'm finished this last thing. So tomorrow, if I may, I'm planning on starting a ladies' Bible study. I know we're just starting 2 Samuel 1 today, but Rick and I are trying to find a way to make this work to where it's still happening every day, but at the same time, we have some moments where we can take a little breather.
But not just that. I also like the idea of
having a variety of content.
The word variety.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I think one of the big highlights of the channel is going through each book verse by verse, chapter by chapter.
Sure.
We're not jumping from that at all.
That will continue.
But go ahead.
But he's doing Fridays now. Like we're trying.
I've done one Friday, but
he's the goal is to do it
Friday.
as much as possible. But the idea we could also do a ladies' night on Wednesday nights and just do something very specific to the ladies. And we might even throw another one in there. We're thinking about, just because he likes to do everything in 3s, doing Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but we haven't decided what we're going to do for Monday yet. But anyway, so the goal...
we actually had an idea.
I don't remember what it us.
But it's not written in stone yet.
Yeah,
So
we're still
you can't-
brainstorming.
You can't.
if you have
can't-
ideas, throw them out there.
don't quote us on this. But the idea that I had the other day, and we've been talking about it, praying about it, is to continue this chapter. Can it continue uploading things on the channel daily?
Yeah.
But the live events, perhaps trying it for a while, see how it works every other day.
Uh-huh.
So every other day, but something new every day.
Yes.
So, for example, live event on Sunday, and then Monday, I was thinking, I didn't know exact order, but I was thinking live event Sunday, then Monday, a recorded video that would, I actually thought 2 of us together. I'm just not sure what the content would be. Something totally away from going chapter by chapter.
Maybe couples.
Maybe something couples, maybe something topical, something. Maybe a Q&A, old-fashioned, something.
Q&A.
Something like that.
I think the Q&A was our original idea, to start getting Q&A questions again.
And then let's see. Then it goes back to Tuesday. Boom, taking up another live event from the chapter or the next chapter that we left off on Sunday. So the live events will always be right like we were doing them now.
But recorded Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
So live event Sunday, then Monday recorded couples something. Then Tuesday live event from the chapters, and then Wednesday a recorded ladies Bible study. Then Thursday back to the chapters, another live event. So we're doing live events every other day, and then Friday the recorded message that I do, and then
Saturday live event.
Saturday live event. So I guess
we're trying to keep Saturday and Sunday as live events.
Yeah, so Saturday and Sunday would be back to back.
Yeah. And then
what do y'all think? I mean, seriously, we still want to do videos and upload something new. We don't want to just give out used cars. Something brand new every single day. But I guess really it'd be recorded things or content
Monday, Wednesday,
Friday, and it would be a couples thing, a ladies Bible study, and then I'll do something on a Friday.
Friday preaching.
And then the other days are live events like we're doing them now.
Yeah.
And then Saturday, Sunday would be the only days that it's actually live events back to back.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
I think you made it sound more complicated.
I know I did, but but folks, that's what I do.
You didn't simplify it.
That's what I do. I need a whiteboard is what I need, or in a little stick.
So back to what I was saying about ladies. So what I was considering what I should teach on, and I kept coming back to the idea of doing the Book of Esther, because we haven't done Esther yet, Rick and I, and
will we still be here? If we did the recorded ones, that's just 3 days.
Yeah.
4 days live events, just like we do now.
Yeah.
Then the other 3 days, the recorded
Monday, Wednesday,
ones
Friday
would be uploaded like a premiere, like
where there's still a chat, like you did the other day.
Yes, like the one that I did, where the live chat was still there. Boom, and that's just 3 days out of the 7.
Yeah.
And then the other 4, we're still doing what we're doing now.
So you still have the option of having
live chat will always be there.
And if we can, then we're going to be there on the premiere as well. But we can't promise it all the time. We're trying to get more sleep. So
but not just that. I mean,
he doesn't like me saying just that, and it's not just that by any means.
No, it's not.
But it does weigh into my decision making.
But you know, I'm getting excited about other things too.
Yes, I know. He likes to diversify.
I like going chapter by chapter. That's why we're not jumping ship from that. We're still doing it the 4 nights.
Yeah.
But there's other things that we could be doing on the channel that I think would help meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
A ladies thing.
Yeah.
What I'm picturing for Friday, even though I've only done one, it wasn't necessarily exactly what I picture, is I want Fridays to be more helpful to Christians, but overall more evangelistic, where folks who maybe are already saved could invite somebody else to watch or share it with somebody so they can hear the gospel and possibly be saved. I'd like Fridays to be like an old fashioned like
Friday night revival.
revival meeting, or like an old Billy Graham crusade kind
Oh,
of deal,
yeah, yeah.
or just something like that, where people can hear the gospel, get saved. Still content for Christians to be encouraged by, because that's what I did the 2 weeks ago when I did it on Friday night. But
This is
anyhow,
more discipleship.
and then the couples thing that I think that we would record, and possibly on a Monday, with, like I said, although I don't have a clear idea of
Yeah,
that
we still
one
need
yet,
ideas on that.
but like an old fashioned Q&A, just
Mhm.
somebody ask a question and we answer it for,
Or we could
the
do a
length of a
theme
video,
study.
or a theme, or
Mhm.
something, or a character study, or something like that, something to kind of branch out.
Mhm.
And then, but still, the bulk of the week, let's not forget that the bulk of the week, we're still doing what we're doing now.
Mhm.
But it would be a scheduled thing, and you could plan it, you could see it. At the very least, even though these live events are sometimes at 7 o'clock, sometimes at 8 o'clock, sometimes at 9 o'clock, the bonus of having a recorded video is
It's
that
going to be at 7
you
o'clock
can you
every day.
can at least plan 3 nights a week
At the
when it's
time.
going to be.
Yeah,
So,
and I think that's helpful to a lot. That's something people have been asking for a while. It's just not something that we can do. But at least on the recorded days you could. So that's important. So I just want to say real fast, we're going to be studying Esther. And
for the ladies thing.
Yes, for Wednesday night ladies night tomorrow. And it's going to be the book of Esther. It's going to be a 10-week study. I've already planned it out. And I'm calling it Becoming a Woman of Influence.
She already said that I cannot enter the room.
I said nothing of the sort.
No, she didn't.
But it's going to be called Becoming a Woman of Influence. And hopefully we'll learn some good lessons from the book of Esther. So that being said, right now we're going to begin 2 Samuel, picking up where 1 Samuel left off.
Yep.
And I'm going to read it. We'll do a very quick overview because we will definitely not get through it all tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. If you guys have ideas for the couple study, let us know. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and read the chapter. We're not going to get through it all tonight, but we're going to begin talking about it with the rest of the time we have left. One of the two.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So let me read it.
Okay.
And we'll get going. All right. 2 Samuel, chapter 1, starting at verse 1. Now it came to pass after the death of Saul, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Amalekites, and David had abode 2 days in Ziklag, it came even to pass on the 3rd day that, behold, a man came out of the camp from Saul with his clothes rent and earth upon his head. And so it was, when he came to David, that he fell upon the earth and did obeisance. And David said unto him, From whence comest thou? And he said unto him, Out of the camp of Israel am I escaped. And David said unto him, How went the matter? I pray thee, tell me. And he answered, That the people are fled from the battle, and many of the people also are fallen and dead, and Saul and Jonathan his sons are dead also. And David said unto the young man that told him, How knowest thou that Saul and Jonathan his son be dead? And the young man that told him said, As I happened by chance upon Mount Gilboa, behold, Saul leaned upon his spear, and lo, the chariots and horsemen followed hard after him. And when he looked behind him, he saw me, and called unto me, and I answered, Here am I. And he said unto me, Who art thou? And I answered him, I am an Amalekite. He said unto me again, Stand, I pray thee, upon me, and slay me, for anguish is come upon me, because my life is yet whole in me. So I stood upon him and slew him, because I was sure that he could not live after that he was fallen. And I took the crown that was upon his head and the bracelet that was on his arm, and have brought them hither unto my Lord. Then David took hold of his clothes and rent them, and likewise all the men that were with him, and they mourned and wept and fasted until even, for Saul and for Jonathan his son, and for the people of the Lord, and for the house of Israel, because they were fallen by the sword. And David said unto the young man that told him, Whence art thou? And he answered, I am the son of a stranger, an Amalekite. And David said unto him, How wast thou not afraid to stretch forth thine hand to destroy the Lord's anointed? And David called one of the young men and said, Go near and fall upon him. And he smote him that he died. And David said unto him, Thy blood be upon thy head, for thy mouth hath testified against thee, saying, I have slain the Lord's anointed. And David lamented with this lamentation over Saul and over Jonathan his son Also he bade them teach the children of Judah the use of the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher. The beauty of Israel is slain upon thy high places. How are the mighty fallen? Tell it not in Gath. Publish it not in the streets of Ashkelon. Lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph. Ye mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew, neither let there be rain upon you, nor fields of offerings, for there the shield of the mighty is vilely cast away, the shield of Saul, as though he had not been anointed with oil. From the blood of the slain, from the fat of the mighty, the bow of Jonathan turned not back, and the sword of Saul returned not empty. Saul and Jonathan were lovely and pleasant in their lives, and in their death they were not divided. They were swifter than eagles, they were stronger than lions. Ye daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, who clothed you in scarlet, with other delights, who put on ornaments of gold upon your apparel. How are the mighty fallen in the midst of the battle? O Jonathan, thou wast slain in thine high places. I am distressed for thee, my brother Jonathan. Very pleasant hast thou been unto me. Thy love to me was wonderful, passing the love of a woman. How are the mighty fallen, and the weapons of war perished? So that's his lamentation. So here we have this David learning about what happened with Saul and Jonathan, the nation of Israel and all of that, and then his lamentation over them. So quick reminder, because it refers back to a couple of things that happened. First of all, it says when we begin that David is returning from the slaughter of the Amalekites. Mm-hmm. Now remember, David, though he's mourning and he seems concerned about what happened with this nation of Israel as they went to battle with the Philistines, remember that David was supposed to be taking part in that battle, and he was supposed to be taking part in that battle on the side of the Philistines. Mm-hmm. So it's almost strange that here he was supposed to have been part of this battle, and here he is talking to the children of Israel like he was always on their side. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's like, I know the Lord did a great work in him, for sure, but it's still, it kind of rings a little hollow. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so he had been kicked out by the Philistines. They would not allow him to fight in that battle because they didn't trust him. Even though he was staunchly going to serve his Lord, the king, he said. But when he went back to the Amalekites, he went through Ziklag and found his family, his home, had all been destroyed, all of his men, their wives and children taken, and they were all completely devastated. And you remember all of that. And it was at that point when he lost everything, his whole family was gone, that he said, he turned to the Lord. Mm-hmm. And he was like, Lord, what should I do here? And at that point, the Lord answered him, and he was able to restore his family. But it all came because he turned his heart back to the Lord and was seeking to be close to him and follow him. And there was just this big change mm-hmm. in David, to where he really started getting back to the David that he used to be, because he sought the Lord and really tried to get back on the right path. And it says here at the beginning that he abode in Ziklag for 2 days, right? And it was on that third day that someone came out and told him that Saul had been killed. Now, his story is interesting. This man says, what happened? Where'd you come out? And he tells that he was an Amalekite. And he says that he saw Saul, his son's dead. He said he saw Saul fall on his sword, mm-hmm. and he was still alive. And he called unto this man, and he's like, listen, my life is still whole within me. Which, again, that goes back to what we talked about. Was it yesterday when we ended 1 Samuel? That Saul was attempting to kill his own self, mm-hmm. but the Lord apparently wasn't letting him die. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He was trying to take his own life. But ultimately, he ended up getting someone else to come and do it. And he tells the story that he went ahead and did it because he could see that, as he said, that he probably wouldn't last long. So David, of course, and all of the men that are there, they are very, very sad, and they tear their clothes up and they fast until the evening. And then David again questions the man, and he says, I'm an Amalekite. And he's like, this doesn't make any sense. How come you weren't afraid to kill God's anointed? And he ends up having this man killed because he killed Saul and he had no business touching someone that belonged to the Lord. So, and he said, he testified for his own self and admitted that he did it. So he was punished according to that. So then David has this lament, and he basically is just as one would if you lost someone that you were close to, and David obviously felt close to them, that he was going to just cry out for them and talk about them and their lives and the work that they had done and the things that they were going to miss, essentially. So the lament we'll probably get to a little later. But anyway, here is the story of the end of Saul as it is told to David. And that is that on my part. Rick's taking all these notes.
I am not. I think it was last night we were all over the place. Maybe not last night. It was the night we did the witchcraft, I think.
Oh, that was several nights ago. Yeah,
I know that just stands out in my mind because that was a long live event. That was, I thought, a very
last night was pretty long too.
Blessing. It was a blessing, but it was back and forth. Tonight might be like that too.
It might.
I'm thinking of again, we talked about Saul trying to kill himself last night. I'm thinking of this about the Amalekite coming and finishing the job, I guess. And I'm thinking of it like this, that sometimes in life you'll find somebody and they are self-destructing, trying to hurt themselves in some way. If you're a believer in Christ tonight, it is not your responsibility to give them a shove or a push.
It's not mercy.
Right. You ought to help. And this is talking about life and death here, but you can apply to things that aren't necessarily a physical life and death. Just all kinds of things. People have within them a self-destructing behavior. And sometimes people get so low, they just don't care. And they just start, self-destructing. This is not the time for you to try to be kind in such a way that you make their habit worse or what they're doing worse. For example, if somebody is trying to
I think they say enable.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I'm trying to say. If someone is depressed and they're doing some sort of, for example, substance abuse, okay, it's not your place to say, hey, here's $20.
Got you some more alcohol.
That kind of thing. You don't want to. What'd you say? Enable
their habits.
I'm just trying to apply this to something that would happen today. Sometimes I think sometimes we try to be so nice to people that even though we think we shouldn't, we still do, thinking that it would, you know what I'm saying? Because we don't want to say no to anybody.
Yeah.
So sometimes we get that way. There's some people that just have a hard time saying no, even though you think to yourself, I really shouldn't be doing this. It's not really good for them, but we do it anyhow. Yes.
There's this whole assisted suicide movement. Do you know anything about that?
I thought of that. Well, that had started happening a long time ago.
It did, but it's funny because there was a movie that came out just a couple of years ago, and it looked like a love story. It was about this guy who was in a wheelchair and he had some kind of disease that had paralyzed him. I never watched it, but I think it was like from the neck down. I can't remember. And he hired a girl to be his caregiver. And the story was they ended up falling in love, but he had already decided that he was going to kill himself because he didn't want to live that way. He just determined that was his life. And that's how the movie ended. He killed himself. And that was the end of the story. But it was very, I don't want to say it was propaganda, but it almost felt like it was intentional to provoke people to think that it was like a merciful thing and it was good. It was kind of presented like it was a happy ending. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people have kind of come to that way of thinking, like how we used to mercifully, put animals to sleep. And now we do it to people, and again, thinking that it's merciful. And I just think as believers, it's very much like we're pro-life in other means, pro-life in this way as well, that ultimately God is the one who's given us life,
Mhm.
and God is the one who can take that life. And that is his business and not ours. And so I think that was the reason why David was so offended by this man saying that, well, I thought he wasn't wrong, so I just gave him what he wanted.
Mhm.
And it's just, it was like, what are you talking about? That's God's. He says God's anointed, but I think it's appropriate for anyone. You know what I mean? The idea that anyone, their life doesn't even belong to them, it belongs to God, and you have no right to do that. Now, I'm not saying it's easy,
Mhm.
not at all. I mean, if you've seen anyone go through end of life things, it's not easy. And I know that all of us will face it one day, and it won't be easy. But, we face a lot of things in life that aren't easy.
Mhm.
And ultimately, it's just part of what the Lord has for our life. But he is there, and he is the one who should be in control of that. It's hard to draw, like Jess was just saying, this reminds me of the difference between killing as part of the law and murder in the Old Testament. Once we start playing with where the lines are drawn, it's murky waters. Better off just letting the Lord deal with it.
Mhm. Again, it's not, you're not helping anybody, and it's not loving if someone is dousing themselves with gasoline to say, here's a match, kind of thing. And I'm not just talking physical, I'm talking spiritual too. Sometimes people spiritually go downhill, and encouraging someone to continue to do wrong or hurt themselves is not loving.
No.
And sometimes we don't tell them that what they're doing is wrong because we don't want to hurt their feelings, offend them. We think we're going to make it worse by giving a confrontation or being confrontational. If somebody you care about is doing wrong or hurting themselves, confront them. Confront them. If I'm hurting myself, if I got the blues and I'm giving up and I have forgotten my way and I am now hurting myself, get in front of me and say, Rick, you fool, stop it. Don't. I was thinking of Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24. Let us consider one another to provoke. I like that you used the word provoke earlier. Provoke unto love and to good works. Sometimes we think that word provoke is a negative word. And many times in our language, we use it as a negative thing. You provoked me, and we think of it as a negative way to provoke somebody. But really, it's how you mean it. It's not to provoke someone to do wrong. The Bible wants us to provoke people to do right, to initiate or instigate, instigate people to do right, to do good. And that's what we ought to be doing. We should be provoking one another to love one another, to love God, and to serve God, and that our works would be good. Okay. And if you see somebody that's self-destructing, like I said, don't give them a shove. Give them a helping hand and provoke them to love and to good works.
Kelly says, would refusing medical intervention be considered suicide? And my short answer is no. Suicide is when you intentionally try to take your own life. Now, if you are already dying and there's a possibility that medical intervention could save you, then you're not choosing death. Death is already with you. You're just choosing whether or not to delve into that. And none of those things are guaranteed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not like, that's just a personal choice. Now, there's probably a lot of murky waters there too. But my short answer on that is no. None of that is guaranteed. There's a difference. And plus, I think there's also a lot of medical intervention is questionable in terms of whether or not it's something that's appropriate for a believer anyway. You know what I mean? There's so much I want to say about that, but I want to choose my words carefully. So I'm trying to choose them carefully, but sometimes they just fall out, you know. But yeah, Maureen, I agree with that. Maureen said assisted suicide as with the death penalty. She said, I can understand why people support it, but I could never be the one to pull the plug because it goes against God's command. Yeah, Rick and I are anti-death penalty too.
And you know something?
Same reason.
You know something? And I know this, that there are a lot of believers. I've even had one in my house before. Challenge me on it.
Yeah, we have this conversation with our kids. They
And,
disagree with us.
and
Some
well,
of them.
I know what you're talking about, but I wasn't referring to one of the kids. But I am. I you know, if I'm wrong, then the Lord can straighten me out in heaven one day. But I am, as I sit here tonight, anti-death penalty.
Yeah, I feel about it like David did with Saul. Saul was even chasing him to take his own life, and David was like, I'm not doing it.
People live, people die. There is reaping and sowing, and if you sow bad seed, you're going to reap a bad harvest. And I believe that with my whole heart.
Mhm.
And there are people many times who face the consequence of death because of their actions.
Mhm.
But the way I choose to take a stand is that is between that person and God.
Mhm. Yeah, vengeance is mine. I'll repay.
I do not believe in being or supporting a executioner of any sort.
Any sort.
It is between that person and the Lord.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm not against prison system. I'm not against anything like that. I don't think people should be able.
I'm
to-
anti-prison system.
I hear you, but I
I just want to throw it out there because you said it.
I
so.
don't think people should be free to go back.
I think there should be consequences. I'm not a fan of the prison system.
But I don't think
That's a whole
we
nother
should be
topic.
necessarily putting people to death, though.
Mhm.
I do think it's between them and the Lord.
Mhm.
Okay, and I know you'll say, "Hey, well, how about people that did it here?" I'll tell you what. If the Lord said to me, "Richard, do it," all right, I'd
That's
say
a whole different story.
exactly.
Then it's the Lord.
But that's different than me saying, "You know what? I think I'm gonna kill him." You know, totally different, totally. And again, I mean, I'm not saying I'm an expert on the situation, but that's the stand that I take. And as far as that's concerned, you need to decide that for yourself, and I'm totally fine with that. And if we have a difference of opinion, then fine. That doesn't mean we have to break fellowship.
No,
Okay.
these are all areas of the Bible where the Lord isn't like black and white on it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's not like this or that. Although I think "thou shalt not kill" is pretty. That's pretty black and white.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Thou shalt not kill. And I understand murder, and I understand there's times when in defense of yourself, in defense of your kid, all of that, when the Lord, like you said, directs people into fighting for different rights and things like that. But in the general sense, "thou shalt not kill" is still in the 10 Commandments.
I do believe that the Lord wants the man to be a protector and to defend your family.
Mhm.
I think even self-defense is not sin.
Mhm.
But as far as murder goes, to be like Cain and Abel,
Mhm.
that was wrong then, and I do believe that's, of course, still wrong today.
Mhm.
But I don't believe the Lord is displeased by us defending our families and
No.
even defending the nation and such. I think that sometimes physical force is necessary,
Mhm.
but that's different than just downright murder, outright murder, I should say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, why are we on that?
Well, it started with the gentleman who decided that he was going to kill Saul mercifully. And we said that there's no such thing.
As far as death goes, I'll say this, and it was just a thought that I was going to bring up. Death is always a grief, I believe, for every person. There's a relative that we have that is now in the funeral home business. And this relative that we have, that we share in common, is now around death every day.
Every day.
And it is a part of life.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe this with my whole heart, whether you're a Christian or whether you're not a Christian, death has always has grief with it. It's sad to lose people that you love. I personally cannot stand goodbyes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like them. I told the story when Ricky came in December, and I told my wife when he was coming. I said, I want to see him, but I almost hate to see him come because I know as soon as he gets here, I'm gonna have to get prepared to say goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate goodbyes. Even people, like Brianna, she doesn't live that far, but she'll come for dinner or something, and I know I'm gonna have to say I saw her at lunch today, and she hugged me before she left, and I thought, blasted, another goodbye. I don't like goodbyes today. I don't like goodbyes, and goodbyes are a grief. And when someone dies physically here on earth, there is a goodbye. But here's the difference that I want to point out, and you know this. For the lost, for people that don't know Christ as Lord and Savior, a goodbye is permanent. There is a separation that does not end. Mm-hmm. But here's something to really linger on for a believer tonight, that the goodbyes are not permanent. It is see you later. It is goodbye for now, but I'll see you in heaven. We have the promise of a reunion in heaven. And even though we will be sad, even though we will grieve losing a loved one, understand it's only for a while. It's temporary. It's for a time. It's like you live in a house and it's a work day. Everybody goes to work. And then everyone starts to come home at different times. The kids come home from school, wife comes home, husband comes home. Everybody doesn't come home together. Mm-hmm. But at night, when the lights are out and it's bedtime, everybody's in the house. Mm-hmm. Well, that's going to be like heaven, folks. We're all not going to heaven at the same time, but we're all going there, those of us that are believers. And when the Lord says it's time and he calls his bride home, we are going to be there together. So goodbyes for the Christian are temporary, and that's a blessing, folks. And as far as what I said first about the goodbyes for a non-believer being permanent, let that not be a oh my and run to the hills kind of moment. Let that be a motivator to run toward the people, toward the multitudes, and share Christ. And we talk about sharing Christ all the time. And it's not because we can't think of something else to say, but it's because we really want to fill heaven with the souls of people, right? Mm-hmm. We want more and more people saved and forgiven. So the family of God will grow, and that hey, and therefore our family would grow, kind of deal. Brothers and sisters in Christ, and the permanent goodbyes will not be the thing.
Is that all you were going to say about the lamentation?
I'm not even there.
Oh, okay. I thought
go ahead.
I thought all of that was in reference to the lamentation.
No, that was just a thought within a thought.
Okay.
Huh? I'm gonna get a T-shirt one day that says "a thought within a thought."
Wow. Well,
to say something, I'll jump in.
What you were saying reminded me of the whole lamentation thing, and I was considering what he was saying in this lamentation, because you were talking about grief and you were talking about how it's like temporary. So what he actually talked about within the lamentation is he talks about this idea that how the mighty are fallen. And I think that to me comes across as just a reminder that it doesn't matter how big and strong and high ranking you are, eventually everyone falls. Eventually death comes to everyone. And it's kind of a reminder to me. And he says that right at the beginning of his lamentation. And he says how the mighty are fallen and the weapons of war perished. That says it right at the beginning and right at the end. So it's just this constant reminder that the death it comes to everyone and it's around the corner. But then
and may I say in verse 19, where it talks about the beauty of Israel slain upon the high places, how are the mighty fallen?
Yeah. What's the first one?
I want to say that everyone didn't fall,
No.
but in the same verse, it talks about how the beauty of Israel was slain.
Yeah.
My point is to apply it today,
Mhm.
and looking at what he's saying here. When one member of the body hurts, we all hurt.
Mhm.
When one member of the body of Christ suffers,
Mhm.
we all suffer,
Mhm.
kind of thing. We are a family. We are a body.
Mhm.
And when the mighty fall here, the beauty of Israel is slain.
Mhm.
This really gives a picture and explanation of unity.
Mhm.
Whether or not we seek to be unified, we're still unified in the sense that the Lord has joined us together.
Mhm.
Okay, you know, there may be Christians that you don't quite get along with, but you know, run as far as you want to go. You can't get away from them. We're all going to heaven, folks.
Mhm.
You know, we are unified in the blood in the Lord Jesus Christ. And when one hurts, we all hurt.
Ellis said in the last chapter, it said the Philistines took Saul's armor. And here this man took his crown, and that confused her. Well, I imagine the guy who killed him got the crown 1st
Mhm.
and didn't really feel like there's any value in any of the armor. And he just left him because by the time the Philistines found him, he was already dead. And that's when they cut his head off
Mhm.
and took all of his armor. So I imagine the way that it worked was this man killed him and took the crown and left everything else. And then the Philistines took everything else and took his head. And then they took their bodies and they put it on the wall of the Shan, I think was where it was. But
I think you're right.
but within this lamentation, it even talks about the idea that he says, "Tell it not in Gath and publish it not in the streets of Ashkelon." Well, we know that in the previous chapter that they did publish it in Gath. They did shout it on the streets of Gath. They pretty much told everybody everywhere that they had killed Saul. And he says, "Lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph." And it's sad because ultimately all of that actually did happen. You know what I mean? That the Philistines were rejoicing and they did feel like they triumphed because of what had happened with Saul. So the idea is that, you know, he was devastated that that was the result. David was. And then he talks about this idea, mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew, let there be no rain. The idea that he almost is kind of referring to that like the nation of Israel, like almost like how they were fasting and mourning. He even wanted the land to mourn. You know what I mean? Because of Saul losing his life. And it says, it cast away the shield of Saul as though he had not been anointed with oil. The idea that even the land would allow him to die. You know, they should be repentant of it. The land should be repentant of it. And so a lot of this is just regret of what happened over them. But then he goes into this whole section where he remembers the good things about them. He says that they were pleasant, they were strong, they were swift. He talks about how Saul and his reign brought prosperity and clothed them in scarlet and gave them ornaments of gold. And then he again says how the mighty are fallen. Jonathan was slain in high places, and he says he's distressed. He was devastated about Jonathan, and he says he was wonderful to him, and his love was more important than that of the one. Like their bond was more than that between him and his wife. And we talked about this before about how they were like they'd been in wars together. It's very much like soldiers who go into war, and they have this band of brothers situation that's closer than they have with anyone else because they've been through so much. And he and Jonathan were like that. They were like, you know, they'd been through all of these things, and he was closer to him than anyone else. And of course that makes sense because David had multiple wives, so how in the world could you be super close to any one of them? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so the idea here is he spends some time talking about the impact on the nation, but then he spends some time honoring Saul and Jonathan for who they were. But then again, that final reminder that even if you're mighty, you're going to fall. You know, it happens to everyone.
Mhm.
Let's see.